It is my pleasure to welcome you all to our sixth event, Indulge in Machine Learning. Before we start, I'd like to share an exciting piece of news with you all. Today's event is a bit more special to us compared to those previous. This is because this is our first event as an officially verified Mozilla community. Yep, you heard it right. Go check out the little blue tick beneath our name in our community portal. We little band of misfits have come a long way from where we were. Now on to the event. One machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, but no machine can do the work of one extraordinary man. If anyone is unfamiliar with any of the topics covered, languages used, or even machine learning as a whole, fret not. Our speaker today will be guiding you from the basics up. On that note, I'd like to introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Akil Soni, an analytics engineer at Schlumberger. He hails IIT Delhi as his alma mater and has experience as a former software engineer in IBM. So it's an honor to have you here. I'll pass on the mic to you.
So thanks for the introduction, and so we'll be starting our talk now. So okay, before we start, can I have a rough estimate of the demographics here? Like how many are in either first year, second year, or third year of your college, like junior than that. So you can please like type Y or something like that, +1 or that in the chat section, so that I can get a rough estimate of the audience which I am having here. So yes, okay. So what is machine learning? Okay, I found this image on Edureka, so it's a very, that's why I thought to put it here. Okay, so what exactly is machine learning? If someone may answer, or if someone has any idea about it, like not on a like not on the definition of code and like on the technical side, but just on a meta level, like to a layman. So what is it? Uh, okay, just give me 1 second. I will share the screen again because I think some issue. Yes. Sure. Okay. So okay, now is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So yes, where was I? Yeah, I was asking what is machine learning. Okay, so let's start with an example. So suppose you have an input and output of these sorts. So for example, when you input 0, the output is 32. When you input 8, the output is 46.4. When you input 15, the output is 59, and so on. So do you see any relationship here? Like if I ask you, what is the output when the input value will be 38? Can anyone answer this? I'll give you 2 minutes to think on it. Like what is the pattern here? And uh, yes, I get it. So now like all of you can, I get it, so it's fine. So you can now focus on the question. Yes, thank you, Ronak. Okay, so can anyone answer this? Like what will be the output value for an input value of 38? I'll give you 2 minutes to think, and then I'll proceed. 82 says Nirmal. No, it's wrong. Anyone else? And okay, so just 1 more minute, then no Ashwini, not 85.9, no Karthik. Okay. No, no, Nirmala, it's not 0.8. Vince, again, it's wrong. Okay, so now I'll proceed. Thank you for the answers. Yeah, no, Balamurugan, no, it's not 109.6. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so the answer is 100.4. Uh, so guesses now how the answer is 100.4 from 38. Okay, just reveal the mystery rather than keep you all hanging. So this is simply basically a conversion of Celsius to Fahrenheit. So if you see the inputs are all in degrees Celsius and the output is in Fahrenheit. So 0 degrees Celsius is 32 Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius is 46.4, and so on. And the formula for conversion is, as everyone knows, Fahrenheit equal to Celsius into 1.8 plus 32. So okay, so now what did we actually do here? So I'm assuming all of you who gave answers, Nirmala, Ashwini, Karthik, Vince. So all of you might have figured some pattern in the numbers, right? In the input and the output, and then predicted one value. So that is exactly how a machine should do. So you can think of it as this way: a machine is like a baby. So baby is born, it doesn't know anything. So it can't even speak. It's completely newborn. So basically it has no idea, so it learns as it goes. So for example, if a baby touches a hot surface, reflex action says that, okay, my hand has got burnt, so touch it. That's how baby learns. And then the next time the baby knows, okay, this is a hot surface, I shouldn't touch it because the last time I did, my hand was burnt. So this is how even a machine has to learn. Machine has no logic, no sense before. So what you have to do is you have to put it in such a way that given the input and the outputs, it figures out a pattern on its own. So quite similar to exactly what you all did here. The only thing was most of pattern wrongly, but it's fine. The approach was correct. So I don't know how many of you here are familiar with the coding part in the Python. So I'll just give a brief summary on that as well. Okay. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay. So now what is traditional software development? So in traditional software development, we know that the input and we know the input and the algorithm, and then we write a function to produce the output. So in our example, when we say Celsius Fahrenheit equal to Celsius into 1.8 plus 32, this is actually the algorithm, like the formula, and we just code it. So we input data, we apply logic to it, and we get output, which is precise. Like if you input 38 to our algorithm, it will definitely predict 100.4 accurate, like 100% accurate. It won't even predict 100.39999. No, it will predict 100.4. Sorry. How did you? Okay, Nirmala. So we can take the questions at the end. Uh, yes. So now, how different is machine learning? So in machine learning, we don't know the algorithm. We just know the inputs and the outputs, and we take input output pairs and figure out the algorithm as and when we parse through the input. So this is how machine learning is different. So to give you a more clarity, so when I say f equal to c into 1.8 plus 32, this is the traditional development wherein we define a function, and the algorithm is f equal to c into 1.8 plus 32. Input is the Celsius value and output is the Fahrenheit value. So this function will always return an accurate value. So this is in Python. So it's pretty simple. If it was C++, you would have to write some more syntax, like you have to declare the variables float f, float c, everything. But since it's Python, it automatically, we do not need to declare variables specifically. It automatically takes the values. So yeah, so this is how we would have done if we were asked to write a function to convert degrees Celsius from degree to degree Fahrenheit. Okay. So so now how different is machine learning? So in this machine learning scenario, we don't know the algorithm. We just know the inputs, which is 0, 8, 15, 22, and the corresponding outputs, which are 32, 46.4, 59, 71.6. And somehow we have to figure out that relation between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So any guesses how do we do it? I mean, again, you can like just briefly type your answer here. So suppose you didn't know the formula, like you're not aware of the formula between of conversion between Celsius and Fahrenheit, that Celsius is 1.8 into Celsius plus 32, and you just knew these values. You just had these set of values, and you had to, like, say, predict for the value of 38, which we did in the previous slide. So how would you go on to do it? Like, leave the coding part. I would just ask you as a problem. If I gave you this problem, you just have to predict. You have to tell me what's the value of 38. So um, how do you do it? Anyone can answer this. I'll just pause here for a couple of minutes if you wish. If you can just think of something like, or at least tell me how about, yeah, yeah, Gokul Darshan, that's correct. Yes, yes, you're okay. Find the difference between the numbers. No. So if you see, the difference is not constant, like the difference won't work. Yeah, Gyan, very good. This is actually a good solution. You can plot it on a graph and try to extend the line. Correct. Um, yes. So this is a good way, and this is actually known as linear regression, which someone else also mentioned. Gokularshan, yes, you're also correct. Sagar, correct. And gradient descent, okay. So those are all fancy terms. I mean, I'll go there, but for now, I will just stick to basics. You have the x-intercept, okay, correct. So now, okay, so now you are all on the correct path. That we have finally established on a solution that one way can be, we'll plot the input and the output. So what we can do is we can plot the input values on the x-axis and the output values on the y-axis, okay, and then try to somehow make a straight line which kind of accurately passes through all the points, okay. And then if we have a straight line, we can extend it, and we can just see what is the corresponding value for the value 38, or as a matter of fact for any value. So yes, but again, that won't be accurate, which is fine, because we don't know the exact algorithm, okay. So that's correct. So now before we go on to this, like how do we actually do it, I'll just give you another example, which is a classic example of machine learning, the housing price prediction. So it is quite similar to what we did in our Celsius Fahrenheit case. So if you can see, there are two variables: the price of the size of the house. So on the x-axis, we have plotted the size of house, and on the y-axis, we have plotted the price. So if you can see, for some values it is low, for some values it is high. And then our problem is to predict that for a new size of house, what will be the profit. So again, as you all suggested, that we can make a straight line. So let's do it. So this straight line kind of is accurately fits the data. So when I say accurately fits the data, I mean that the error is relatively small. All the values of input and output. So for example, if I take this point, so this point, it has an output value of somewhere here and an input here, but our straight line will predict a value this. So the error is quite small, and we can see this is the case with all the examples. So now if we have a new size of house, we can just predict the value of price based on straight line. Okay. So yes, that's correct. Okay. So now, but suppose we have a more complex like this, wherein you cannot draw a straight line. So what should we do? Okay, not a big deal. We can draw a curve. We can draw a polynomial curve, say of degree 2, degree 3, and then we can fit it. So in this case, what we can do is something like this. So this curve fits our data pretty good. You can see some of the points are exactly on the curve, like this one and this one, and the others also have a relatively smaller error. So machine learning is precisely to come up with this curve here and this straight line here. So our algorithm, which someone suggested, that linear regression, which is exactly this, we give the inputs and the outputs, and the ML algorithm comes up with this straight line. So, or as a matter of fact, this curve. So this is known as a model in machine learning, that the function which we use to predict the output from the input. So that is known as a model, and the model parameters are the parameters which we have in this function. So for example, in this case, the equation of this curve might be, this sounds like a parabola, so it might be ax square plus bx plus c. So the parameters a, b, and c, these are known as the model parameters. And in this case, it's a straight line, so equation is like y equal to mx plus c. So m and c, these are the parameters in this case. So the task of a machine learning algorithm is to come up with these parameters given a model, also to predict a model. So there are multiple ways which we can go through about it. We can just say, okay, we can start by saying, okay, I don't want a curve, I'll just fit a straight line here. So initially we'll give the model as just a straight line, y equal to mx plus c, and then we'll ask our algorithm to somehow come up with the values of m and c, so that this data is properly, like the error in the predicted value of our model and the actual value is the least. So then our machine learning algorithm might come up with some straight line which would not be that accurate as this curve. Okay, so in other case, what we can do is we can start by using a 2-degree or a 3-degree curve, like ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d, and then we can say our model to, okay, now you come up with the values of a, b, c, and d. So this model would be much better than the earlier model of a straight line. Okay, so someone is saying, okay, no, never mind. Yeah, so we were, yeah, okay. So this model would be predicting a better value than if we have a straight line. So again, it depends on the input and the output data. Okay, so now let's go to neural networks. What exactly is a neural networks? Okay, so before that, let me actually give you applications of neural networks so that you know where all it's used. So it is widely used in pretty much entire domain today. One application is like banking, where we can see many big banks, like they want to use this technology, like from predicting how much money they need to put inside an ATM, and to optimize the trip back and forth. So it's not like just randomly one van comes and puts all the cash into the ATM. So everything is planned, because they study the pattern of the ATM machine. Like if you deposit, suppose say 100,000 or 10 million rupees in an ATM machine, then in how many days usually the it takes for the machine to get empty. So yeah, it's all calculated. It's not like, okay, today the van comes, it fills, and then some random day it again comes to check. So this is not the case. So based on the previous data, previous history of the ATM, that okay, earlier it took 10 days, sometimes it took 9 days. So based on that, the machine learning algorithm, which is our neural networks, it predicts, okay, so it comes up with a value saying, okay, 9 or 10 days is roughly the time which this machine takes to get to completely get empty. So that's how banking sector uses it. Then we have its application in the advertising sector, wherein the big giants like Google and Amazon, everyone, they deploy neural networks to optimize their ad choice. So you might have seen Google ads stating that why are you seeing this ad? It has some 4 options, like, okay, this is not relevant, it's not relevant to me, and so these are some of the major options. So the background, that's how it works. It's actually neural networks which they can implement to have a better click rate, so that to optimize their ads specific to individual, so that they can have a more custom ad pertaining to every individual, and they actually benefit from it. One application. Another one is in healthcare. This is actually very recent and very interesting, wherein many academics and startups are trying to solve difficult problems that were unsolvable before. Examples include clinical imaging to assist doctors in reading MRIs. So yeah, this is actually very good because here a lot of advancements is happening and people are working relentlessly to improvise the healthcare, specifically in today's situation in the wake of this pandemic. So, yeah. And the last one is the automotive industry, wherein we have the self-driving cars. But honestly, I don't see the self-driving cars being successful in Indian roads because obviously we have so many potholes and narrow roads. So that would be a big challenge. But yeah, so now let's dwell into machine learning. Okay, so the image which you see here is nothing but a neural image of our brain. So the name neural networks, it is derived from how our brain processes. So if you know, just a second. Yeah. So as I said, this neural network is a technology based on the structure of the neurons inside a human brain. So if you can have a look at this image of the neuron, each is processing tool of our brain. So every neuron will try to simulate other neurons via its axon terminals, which we say this, and tell which should active and which ones remain inactive. So by doing that over and over across multiple neurons, so for your information, we have around 100 billion neurons in brain. Our brain can process complex things and solve problems. So this is somewhat or less similar how a neural network works. So the fundamental structure or unit in a neural network. Okay, so basic structure unit of a neural network is neuron, and now we go on to the artificial neural network. So one second, there is a lot of disturbance. Can I mute this Zoom sound? It's quite it's pinging very frequently. uh, is there any option to mute? One second. Just a second, I'm figuring out something. 1 second, let me sorry, just yes, sorry, extremely sorry. I was kind of figuring out how to mute the notifications from the Zoom call because it was kind of repeatedly making that ting 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 noise. Okay, so yeah, where were we? We were on our neural network. Okay. So yeah, so how does the artificial neural network look like? So this is a very old algorithm, as in this algorithm was developed around 1940s, somewhere around 1940s. And so this is the typical architecture of a neural network. What does it look like? So we have an input layer and an output layer. So input layer is generally the input. So in our case, if you have to apply a neural network to our Celsius Fahrenheit problem, so the input will be the Celsius values, and the output will be obviously the Fahrenheit value. Here you can see 3 neurons, because in some cases there might be 3 parameters to an input. In our example, when we say Celsius to Fahrenheit, there was just single value, single parameter, the value of Celsius. But in our other examples, say the housing price prediction, we might have multiple parameters like the size of the house, the number of say on the which floor the house is located, and maybe the area, the locality of the house. So in that case, we can have multiple parameters, input parameters, predict a common value. So to give more clarity, 1 second. So okay, I don't have that image here. Okay, so yeah, I was just trying to pull up an image of housing price prediction where with multiple parameters. But okay, you get it, right? So we can have multiple parameters to a problem. It's not as easy as a Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. We can have maybe 10 or 15 parameters even. And to be honest, in the modern day, in the practical life, we have hundreds and thousands of parameters to predict one value, to predict output. So to give you more example for the like for the ATM case, the input parameters can be the date on which the machine is refilled, and how much money does the refill take, and maybe the occasion, maybe it's some festival, then there would be a lot of use of the machine, so that the refill gets, so that the machine gets empty early. So yeah, there are multiple parameters. Okay, and then we have some things called as hidden layers 1 and 2. This is nothing but, okay, so to give another example, like if you have an image of the cat image is the input, and the value of the output will be cat. So that is the purpose of these hidden layers. Like somehow take the image of the cat in the input layer and predict the output as cat. And given the structure of the algorithm like a structure of a human neuron, hence it is called the neural network. And the hidden layers are the function that will map the image to the correct category. So for example, when I say image with the cat, sorry, so in the image with the cat, so mostly the dimensions of the image would be, for example, if we say 28 cross 28, so that will be around 764 pixels. 28 cross 28 image, 764 pixels, and the parameters can be the brightness of each pixel, and then we do some computations here and then predict the output layer. Okay, so I guess this is more or less the architecture, and there are two aspects to the machine learning. One is the implementation side and the other one is the theoretical side. So this session here, I'm focusing more on the implementation aspect of a neural network, or as a matter of fact, machine learning. There are a lot of theoretical aspects to it, as in the maths behind this, like how exactly what is the function of these hidden layers, how exactly does this neuron gets converted to this neuron, and everything. So that there is a lot of maths to it behind it. If you want, I'll be more than happy to explain post this session, because I think the there are a lot of prerequisites to understand the maths. So you must be aware with the differential calculus, you must be aware with the machine learning terminologies, other like some knowledge of how does a model parameter work, gradient descent and all. So there are a lot of prerequisites, and that's the reason I have decided not to cover those things in this session, because I guess that might be like too heavy, and it might be a bit out of scope. So, and plus these days you do not actually write a code. When I say you implement a neural network, you don't go on and define, like you don't go on and write the code to transform each neuron. So we have libraries available. So like in this talk we'll be going to explore TensorFlow and Keras. So that is a library which has neural networks implemented already. You can just call the functions. So yeah, if it's for your knowledge, if it's for your interest, then it's great. That you should definitely know how the neural network works, the maths behind it, and like how the magic happens. How does an image of a cat actually translates to the words cat, and how does the image which is not of a cat, like which is some other image, does not translate to cat. So there's a lot of stuff going on here in these neurons. So if you want, we can have a discussion on that post this session. But as I said, in today's world where we want to implement a neural network, we don't actually write the functions for the transformations. We just call the functions which we have already there in the library for TensorFlow Keras. Okay, so without delay, let's start the neural network. Don't worry, after doing this tutorial, you can also build your own neural network, which is pretty easy. So let's implement a neural network. So I'll be using this Colab. This is pretty much similar to a Jupyter notebook. You all can code along with me, or if you want, you can have an understanding first, and the later I can share the code. So don't worry. I mean, if you lag behind, or if you are not able to cope up, or it's fine. I can share this notebook with you post this session. So it's up to you. If you want, you can code along with me, or else you can just have an understanding here, and I'll provide you with the notebooks. Okay, so I'll start with a pretty simple example of Celsius to Fahrenheit, so which we saw earlier, and we'll just build a very, very, very simple neural network to get a job done. Okay, so let's start. So let's start by importing TensorFlow as TF. Okay, so we can run this. Okay, meanwhile we can yes. So now we'll import some other libraries which we'll need along our code. We'll use NumPy as NP. So are you guys aware of NumPy? It's nothing but a library in Python which eases your work with arrays. So arrays as in the matrices. It's precisely used to compute, like do matrix multiplications to which would be otherwise somehow complicated. So if you are aware, a matrix multiplication is like row column row column row column. It's not a simple scalar multiplication. So there are tons of other features in NumPy, but the main or the primary reason which we use NumPy is to play with matrices in our code. So, and I'll just import some logging so that we can print our stuff. Yes. So logger equal to TF. TensorFlow has its own logger. So this is the logger function, and logger dot set level logging dot error. So this is just some basic setup so that which will come handy in our next lines of code. So we are getting some error. Okay, 1 second. It says logging error is not defined. Oh, sorry.
Hello.
I'm back. Yeah.
Sir, can you please zoom in your screen a bit so that it will be better visible, please?
Okay, sure. 1 second, I'll try.
Thank you.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, sorry. It's logging dot error. We'll run this. Yeah. So now let's proceed further. Okay. Now basically we'll just set up our training data. We'll make two lists: Celsius underscore Q equal to. So yeah. So this is one way of defining an array in NumPy. NP dot array, and so we just write the values which we have, say minus 40, minus 10, 0, 8, 15, 22, 38. Yep. So this is what we call as the training data. Training data as in the data which our model would use to get trained and come up with the model parameters. So similarly, we have a Fahrenheit. I have it handy, so I'll just copy and paste it so that we don't waste a lot of time. So yes, so this is, we have defined two arrays. So we could have defined it normally. If the other way to define an array is like this, Celsius underscore Q equal to, directly you can just make this square brackets, and you can just straight away write an array minus 40, minus 10, and so on. So this is a way, but we prefer to use NumPy because of its functionalities, which we'll see ahead, and it's better. So yeah, but you can feel free to define an array using our traditional method in Python, which is just this. Okay, so I'll just run it to check if there are no errors. Yep, done. So okay, so this class of algorithms like neural networks, linear regression, these come under the category of supervised machine learning. So when we say supervised machine learning means that it's the input and the output are known as well. So there is a labeled data, as in we have a minus 40 in Celsius and we have a minus 40 in Fahrenheit. We have minus 10, we have 14 here. So basically we have an input as well as an output, and we just need to figure out the relation between those two. So that's the supervised machine learning algorithm. And neural networks, linear regression, logistic regression, all these are the types of supervised learning algorithm. And there is another class of algorithms which is known as the unsupervised learning algorithms, wherein you just have the data and you leave it to the algorithm to figure out the relation between them. So to give an example, the t-shirt size data is a very good example. So you have, say, clusters, you have, say, points of sizes, and you want your algorithm to figure out and classify those into small, medium, large, XL, double XL. So that is type of algorithm which we call as unsupervised learning, wherein we don't have a label associated to the data, we just have the points. Okay, and it's up to the algorithm to classify it in any number of classes. We can give the number of classes as 3, it will then classify as small, medium, large, or we can give it 5, small, medium, large, XL, double XL, or 6, anyway, any which ways. So these are the two classes of the algorithms. This neural network is a supervised learning algorithms, and let me just also print the data so that we can see how exactly it's there. For I see in enumerate Celsius Q, and we just print this degrees Celsius equal to so actually I'm not aware about the expertise in the coding the audience has, so pardon me if you think that I'm doing something which is very trivial, because as I said, this session is supposed to be on a very meta basic level, and it is designed in such a way that anyone and everyone can understand. So so that's the reason some of you might find this very trivial, and yeah, so that's it. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, so if I just run it, you can, okay, so some error is there. Name Fahrenheit A is not, okay, there's a spelling mistake. Yep. Yeah, so as you can see, minus 40 Celsius equal to minus 40 Fahrenheit. It's just the data which we know printed in a more readable format. Okay. Now, as I said, we are all aware of the terminology, but just to repeat, so a feature, when we say feature, it is the inputs to our model. In this case, a single value, which is the degrees in Celsius, which I already mentioned a while ago. That in case if we have multiple parameters, we would have multiple features. So for example, in the housing price prediction, we would have 5 features: the size of the house, on which floor it is, location, and etc. So in our case, we just have one feature, which is the value, single value, which is the degrees in Celsius. Label is the output. We call the label as the output of the function, which is a value in Fahrenheit. And an example is a tuple of input output. So now let's create the model. Now let's build a layer. So I'll just, okay, 1 second. Okay. I have received some responses. Okay, I look at them. Okay. So this is the response sheet. If you have some doubts, you can post it there. I'll have a look and I'll clarify them at the end of this session. Or if it's something in the process, then I can clarify it now as well. So yeah, okay. So where were we? Yeah, we were going to build a layer. So let me just write this and then I'll explain what does it mean. So tf.keras.layers.tens units equal to 1, input shape equal to 1. Okay. So now let me kind of explain what exactly is this. So this value, input shape, this specifies that the input to this layer is a single value, which is the value in Celsius. So this would be 5 in case we are doing a housing price prediction problem, basically the number of features. In our case, it's 1, so it is 1. And the units is nothing but the specific number of neurons in the layer. The number of neurons defines how many internal variables the layer has to try to learn how to solve the problem. We'll discuss this in detail in a while. You can specify as many neurons here as you want. It's for now, to keep the process and algorithm simple, I have just kept a single neuron. Okay. And so what else? Yeah, so this dense layer is a layer which is connected, which is a fully connected layer. So okay, I'll come to this in a while. So for now, let's run this. So do you understand the difference between the Python libraries and manual coding? So if it was not for TensorFlow Keras, and if you had to write your neural network from scratch, what would you have to do is you would have to define all this yourselves. So you will have to define a neural network, a neuron. You will have to define a layer. Here we just call, yeah.
Sir, can you please explain this topic again? Jainam from the chat asked you.
Which topic? 1 second. Okay. Sir, can you teach this topic again? What was the last done statement?
1137 should be the 10th line, sir.
Yeah, I got it. So, okay. Which topic, as in, which topic are you talking about? The, did you understand this till here? Till this print statement? Did you understand till this? Please explain again, tf.keras.layers. Yeah, I'll do that. And my question was to Jaina. So did you understand this till here, till this point, that we have just stored the data in an array in here, and we have just printed that array. Is this much clear? Yes. Okay, great. And now to the question of Sahaj. What was the last done statement in print? last done statement, I am not sure I get your question. Okay, you can maybe rephrase it. Meanwhile, I can answer another question. Please explain tf.keras. Yeah, I'll do that in a second. Okay, so that's the only remaining doubt. Okay, so so just hold your thought, Gokul. I'll come back to it. I'll explain it. I know. So just give me a while. Let me go ahead, and then I'll come back with uh, I'll come back with the explanation in detail. Or else, okay, let me do it right away. Let me just paste some text here so that you can have a look. Okay. So 1 second. Okay, so I have some text ready. I'll just paste it here for a better understanding. Yes. Okay, done. How do I done? Yes. So maybe okay. Let me check. Hi, can you commit your code on Jovian or any other platform once you're done? Yeah, I'll be sharing this notebook. So so need not worry. This is anyway this is an open source. So I'll be sharing this. So don't worry. And and this okay. That is something, Vimla, which you should ask the organizers. I don't have any authority on that. So maybe Keshav or the organizers can assist you there. And can you commit your code? Yeah, that's done. Yes. So I have just pasted this text. So if you can, I'll just have to zoom in a bit. Yep. Is it visible or should I? Okay, one second. Okay, so here you can have a read at it. I'll just read it to you again. So this input, okay, let me go step by step. So tf.keras, this is nothing but invoking the keras class of TensorFlow TF. TF is, we have imported TensorFlow as TF here, so we are just calling it. We are calling the TensorFlow, and in that we are calling the class keras. And in the class keras, there is a object called layers. So this layer object will define a layer, and when I mean a layer, I mean this. So all these are layers. So input layer, hidden layer, output layer. So by this command tf.keras.layers, I am just initializing a layer. To be precise, initializing the input layer, because that's how we start. We will start from the input layer. Utility of logging that we imported. Yes, that will come handy in a few minutes. And so I did. Okay, great to hear that, Serge. So you have rectified your error. Great. So where was I? Yeah, so I was defining, so tf.keras.layers. Yes, and now this dense, what does this dense mean? To be precise, dense means exactly this. When I say dense, this neuron in this layer is connected to every other neuron in the next layer. So if you can see here, the first neuron is connected to this neuron, this neuron, this neuron, this neuron. And similarly, all the neurons in this layer are connected to every other neuron in the other layer. So in other words, we call it a fully connected layer or a dense layer. So that is just a machine learning terminology, wherein if we say dense, we mean that and okay, when I say connected, what does that connected mean? So by connected, I mean that this neuron will have some value. Okay, in our case, there is only one neuron here, not three, because as I mentioned earlier, we have only one feature, which is our value in Celsius. So is this clear? I mean, are we clear with this explanation that why, like, the features, how many features we are having, and what is exactly the features? And when I say input has multiple features, I mean that it's not a single dimensional input. So for example, in our case, when we say Celsius to Fahrenheit, Celsius has just one value, which is 45 or any value, but it will not always be that case. If suppose we have a housing price prediction problem, again I'm giving the same example so that it's easy for all of you to understand. If we have a housing price prediction problem, therein when I say input, so input will not just be the size of the house. So suppose the size of the house is 500 square feet and you want your output as say 10,000 rupees or whatever, 10 lakh rupees. So that's not how it works. In input we have more features. We have a house, we have a size of the house, we have the which floor is it on. Okay, so now let's consider just two. So when the input in this case will be two neurons. One which will specify the size of the house, other which will specify on which floor it is, and it's a different type of input. Not necessarily every input has to be of integer type. So the size of the house is, flooring is also an integer type, but the location might not be an integer type. So it might be a string type or whatever. So in that case, our input will also be an array of arrays. So in our Celsius to Fahrenheit case, when I define the np.array, this is a single dimensional, as in one dimensional array, wherein this constitutes the whole input. Okay, so let me just give you another example. So for example, if we want to define an input for housing price, so for housing price, we will have to define a two-dimensional array considering we have two features. So in that case, our input will look something like this: an array of arrays, wherein our first input is say size of house, which is for, I'm just putting some dummy values, 1 2 3 4, comma the flooring say 5, and say suppose, okay, let's just have 2. So in this case, this entire thing constitutes one input. And suppose the another value, so another input value may be housing size is say 222 and the floor is 8. So this is another input. So now do you get the difference? When I say features are 1, that means the features are 1, that means it's a unidimensional, single dimensional array. This constitutes the entire input. This constitutes the entire input. But when I say there are more than one features, this constitutes an entire input, the tuple, like the size of the house, the flooring, size of the house, this is not full stop, this is comma, flooring. So we will have input array of this type when we are doing a housing price prediction problem or any problem wherein we have more than one feature to an input. Okay, so I hope this is clear, but if it's not, you can ping in comments. Okay, fine. Then what I was saying is, yeah, so I was explaining to you this. So units is 1. We can write here anything. Units, we can say 5, 10, 15, which will come to later. And input shape, this is an important thing, which is just what I explained, the features. Here the input shape is 1. If we were doing the housing price prediction, Control Z, yeah. So in this, the value of input shape would have been 2. Okay. So let me just comment this. Yeah. So who had this question? Gokul. So is this clear now? This statement L0. L0, it's we have just named L0 as the first layer, input layer. So we'll be using L0, L1, and so on. So so is this clear? If you can just say yes or no, Gokul. Okay. So okay, so now proceeding further, you can have a read at this text. This is precisely what I have just explained. Okay, thanks, Gokul. Okay, now let me just go ahead with the next steps. Okay, so now we have defined our first layer, which is the input layer. Now let us define the model. Okay, model as in the, do you remember, like in the starting of the talk, I told you what is a model. Model is nothing but a function which will convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, and the model parameters are the ones which the machine learning algorithm will train over the input data, this data, Celsius and Fahrenheit data. So again, I'll explain this. Model equal to, again, TF is TensorFlow, Keras is the class, and sequential. So sequential is just to say that we are having all the layers in a sequence: input layer, hidden layer, output layer. So we all have this in sequence. So this image is not specific for our Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. This is a general image of a neural network. This would be more accurate in some more complex examples. This is a very simple example. So we have just one input layer and one output layer. That's it. We don't have any hidden layers. I think so. Yeah. So yeah, this is, we are just saying, okay, take a model to be based on the input layer, which is the L0, which we have defined here. Okay, so let me just run it. Sorry. Okay, and let me just post some more text so that you can have a better understanding. Anyway, I'll share this notebook with you so you can again have a look at it if it's not clear. Yes, no, I have to have a text. Okay, I'll just paste it. Yep. So so you can have a read at it. Once layers are defined, they need to be assembled into a model. The sequential model definition takes a list of layers as an argument, specifying the calculation order from the input to the output, which is just what I said. So this model just has a single layer, L0. Again, the same thing. Okay. Yes. So now we have to compile the model. Okay. Again, so is this making sense? I mean, is this clear, or is it too fast, too slow, or good? Is it good? Sahil says, okay, you'll get after the session. Yeah. Okay. Ronak says, okay. Thanks, Ronak. Okay. Good. Good, says. Thank you. Thank you for the response. So yes. So now let's compile the model. So here I say model.compile. Loss is mean squared error. Okay. So okay, again here, what is the loss function? So loss function is basically a way of measuring how far off predictions are from the desired outcome. So so again here, I'll show you in one of the slides. So here the loss function. Okay, shall I zoom? No. Okay, 1 second. So yes, here the loss function, or whatever the loss value will be, it will be the difference between the value which our model predicts and the actual value. So for example, in this case, the loss is 0 because our model predicts exact value which is there in the output. In this case, our model predicts a value slightly higher, like here, and the actual value is this. So the loss function will be the loss. And how do you define it? You can just maybe simply subtract it. So you can say, okay, the predicted value is say 10.5 and sorry, 150.5, and the actual value is 149.5. So the loss will be 1. So this is one loss function, which is the linear loss function. But what we have defined in our here is the mean squared error. So mean squared error is a very famous loss function which says nothing but here the mean squared error would be the root of the difference between the squares of the values. So basically you square the value which our model predicted, you take the square of the value which of the actual value, you subtract them and then take a root. That is the loss value. So there are hundreds of loss functions. You can use any one, but for this purpose we have used the mean squared error. And again, this value mean squared error is again something which is there in TensorFlow Keras. It won't work if you have not imported TensorFlow Keras. You will have to define your own loss function. So you will have to define something like def loss function given it, and you will have two parameters. One will be the predicted value, another will be the actual value basically the output. And then you will have to write, okay, so the loss equal to math. I don't know if math is imported or not, but I'll import it. Math.sqrt predicted value star predicted value minus so on actual value into actual value into actual value. So this is something which you would have to code, but since we are using a library, the TensorFlow, you can just write this words, mean squared error, and internally it will do this exact same thing. Okay, so let me just erase it. And optimizer function is a way of adjusting the internal values in order to reduce the loss. So these things will make more sense. As just give me few minutes, let me complete the neural network, and then I'll go through it again. So yes, now we'll train the model. Now we have the model, we'll just train it based on the input data. So, and second, history equal to model dot fit. So just remember that all these things are very simple because of the library TensorFlow Keras. Otherwise, it's a really hard thing to implement a neural network. I mean, it will take days, as in it will take around 8 to 10 hours for someone with a average knowledge of coding and Python. It will take around 8 hours to implement the end-to-end neural network. When I say end-to-end neural network, I mean the neurons, the loss function, the predict function, all the functions which are just like simply callable here with the library. So again, history equal to, so again, this fit function, model dot fit, this is nothing but we are saying, okay, we are saying to TensorFlow, okay, I have this Celsius, I have this Fahrenheit, and you just figure it out. You just, I have given you the input layer, just figure out something and give me the output. So now let me display the training statistics. For that, I will have to import matplotlib dot py plotlib splt plt dot xlabel epoch number. So this is nothing but I'm just plotting the training data, training statistics, so that we can visualize how did our neural network actually manage to compute the parameters, model parameters, and then plt dot plot history dot history loss. Okay, so let me just run all this. So did we run this? I don't know. Okay, let me run it again. Then let me run this. Let me run this. Okay, so I'll run this later. Okay, so this is just for visualization. Even if we don't have this here, it won't affect. Is there any question? No. Okay. What is the parameter 0.1 in Adam class? How do I select? How do I specify number of output? Yes. Please wait. I really appreciate all of your questions, but I just please have a bit patience. Let me just quickly finish this and I'll explain it to you. So it will all be very clear, but just let me do it end to end. I'll come back to all the questions. Print model dot predict any value 100. 10. Okay, so yes, if I run this, so our model has successfully predicted the value for 100 degrees Celsius, which is 211.32018 Fahrenheit. I know this won't make any sense to all of you now, but okay, now let's, okay, so okay, let me start again. So till this point it's clear, right? Any issues till this point? tf.keras.sequential L0, this much is fine. Any outputs? No. Ronak says no. Okay, so what is your doubt, Ronak? Is epochs the number of iterations? Yeah, I will come to that. Yes, you are true. Yes, you are right. And yeah, clear. Okay, Ronak, thank you. And even this thing model.compile. Okay, let me add some text here so that it's better understandable. Model.compile. Okay, I'll add it later. One second. Yeah. So yeah, in this we are just saying we are okay. What is the process? So the process is we define a model. We have defined a model like this. Now our aim is to train the model. Okay, so we have defined a model. So for example, to give you an analogy, in this case we have defined the model as y equal to ax square plus bx square plus c. This is the model. Okay, but we don't know the values for a, b, and c. Ax square plus bx square, ax square plus bx plus c can be anything. It can be a curve. It can be a curve like this, like this. Okay, let me draw. So it can. So it can be a curve starting from here, going here, going here, going here, anything. So it can be anything, right? But there is only just one specific value for a, b, and c for which we get this model. So how do we get it? We train the model using these input and output parameters. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say training the model, and that's precisely what precisely what I have done here. I am saying model.fit. Fit is another word for training. That fit as in just fit the parameters, fit the training data so that the loss is minimized. Okay, and model.fit, the input Celsius, the output Fahrenheit. Epoch is the number of iterations which someone just mentioned. Akila, yes, you are correct. Can you also show? I don't think I'll have the time, but I'll share you the notebook with neural network greater than 1. That's correct. I have a neural network which is of 3 layers. I have it, but I don't think if I'll have the time to present it. But yes, I have the notebook ready. I can send it across. Okay. So this is exactly an epochs. Yeah, epochs are the number of iterations we are saying to go through. So when I say 500, I mean to say to my model that okay, you just go over 500 times to this data, to our input and output data, and it's basically just to improve your accuracy. Accuracy as in it's basically just to improve the model. So some in the first iteration, to give you an example. So to give you an example, in the first iteration, our model would look something like this. Okay, so our model would look something like this. But as and when we have more iterations, this will converge to this model. Okay, so just delete it. Yeah, so that's the meaning of epochs. Okay, and when I run this, okay, I'll just also run the matplotlib so you can see. Okay, so this is how the model converges as the epochs increase. So as you can see, when in the first epoch the loss magnitude was 3000, that the loss magnitude as in the difference between the predicted value and the actual value was so high. But as and when our model went through more and more number of epochs, iterations over training data, the loss is gradually reduced to very less. So it's now, you can say it's almost zero. It's basically close to zero. So that means our model has converged. So even if I give more epochs, like I'll just show you, if I say give only 100 epochs, so you can see the value for 100, it should be somewhere here. So let me just do that. Let me even give just 50 epochs. Okay, let's see how our model performs in 50 epochs. Okay, so as you can see, in 50 epochs the loss magnitude is decreasing, but it's not zero. It's of the order of more than 4. Okay, so that's the reason we try to give more epochs. But again, giving more than 500 won't increase the accuracy much, because it's already very close to zero. So I hope this makes sense. So our primary objective in any machine learning algorithm is to reduce the loss, is to reduce this loss, as in the difference between the predicted value and the actual value. And when I say the actual value, I mean the output value. So for example, we in our model, when we give the input as -40, our model should predict a value very close to -40 here. When I say -10, it should predict very close to 14. So that's how we know, okay, now so this our model is correct, and if for a new value we'll expect it to be accurate around to be around the actual value. So sorry. Yes, so now, and when I say print model dot predict 100, again predict is a function which TensorFlow Keras gives you handy. Otherwise you will have to write the code for this function, and what will be in that code? You will just simply you will have the model, you will know the to give an analogy here, you will know the values of a, b, and c. You have to just calculate it. So it's so it would not be as simple as ax square plus bx plus c. So, and if you are given a new value of x, and you know the values of a, b, and c after training, and you just substitute the values and predict. So this is again a handy function which comes in. So it says 211.132, which is pretty accurate if you calculate using the formula for Celsius, 1.8 into Celsius plus 32. This is what you'll get, close to this. Okay, so now I'll just give you the visualization so that you can see it in action. So I'll just have something here, I'll paste it. So I'll just print the weights. Okay. So here, as you can see, these are the layer variables. And when I say layer variables, this is again the model parameters. So it says 1.79809, and there is a constant 31.93603. So now, do you understand what's happening here? Somehow our machine learning algorithm accurately predicted the formula. So our formula was Fahrenheit equal to Celsius into 1.8, which is very close to this value, plus 32, which is again very close to this value. So this is what happened when I said model.fit. So our model came up with these values for the layer. So our input layer was L0. So this was the output. Now just to your question of sir, does the model calculates y equal to mx plus c value of m and c? Yes, in a way that is correct, Vignesh, that's correct. My prediction output, very good, sir, very good. And also you asked about with neural network greater than 1, we can do it right away. I can show you in this also. So there is no restrictions on the layers which you can put. So I'll just code a neural network for the same value with multiple layers. Okay. So let me just copy and paste it. I have the code ready with me. So in this case, you can see I have defined 3 layers: L0, L1, L2. What is L0? L0 is a dense layer with 4 units. 4 units as in we have now 4 neurons in the first layer. Input shape is 1. Then we have second layer again with 4 units, and dense layer means again the same thing, wherein we have such a structure that all the neurons in the previous layer are connected to every neuron in the next layer. So all the 4 neurons in L0 are connected to the 4 neurons in L1, and all the 4 neurons in L1 is connected to the single neuron in L2. Basically L2 is our output layer. Since it has 1 unit, so this will be the value of Fahrenheit. Okay, and again the same thing, model equal to tf.keras sequential L0, L1, L2, because earlier since we had only one layer, L0, so that's the reason we just gave one layer. Now since we have defined 3 layers, we say L0, L1, L2. Again the same steps, model.compile, loss is mean squared error, optimizer is okay. So someone had a question about the Adam 0.1. So this is what we call as the learning rate. Learning rate as in if someone said gradient descent, if someone is aware of gradient descent, so in that this 0.1 is the learning rate, like how much should be the learning rate. We get this generally is a value between 0 and 1. So basically this is just the learning rate. I mean, if you want more explanations, I can have it at the end. We are already over time, so or no, okay, sorry. Yeah, so in this we have 3 layers, L0, L1, L2, and we just say model.compile, model.fit. Again we are saying telling our model to just come up with having this input data, epochs is 500, and these 3 layers, come up with an algorithm, come up with model parameters. So again we say print finish training the model.predict 100, and now we will predict the layer variables just like here. we got, where did we get it? Yeah, we got 1.79 and 32 for one layer. Now here we will predict for all the 3 layers. Okay, so let me just run it. Yes, so finish training the model, and model.predict is again same 211.74, which is again quite accurate. Earlier value was 211.32, so this is again very accurate. Model predicts that 100 degrees Celsius is this much Fahrenheit. There are L0. Okay, so now here you won't be able to see a clear distinction, like clear formula for Fahrenheit like we saw earlier. Here we can see clearly, right, 1.8 and 32. But in this we cannot see that. The reason being, here we just had a one layer. Okay, so what we told our neural network was, okay, I'll just give you one layer and you just figure out the output. So that's the reason it just tried to fit a straight line. But here we have 3 layers, and if you see, the weights are something like these. So these are nothing but the values for L0 variables, layer 0 parameters, layer 1 parameters. So to give an analogy again with this graph, let me explain. So in the first case, in our first case where we had only single layer, our model was pretty linear, was very simple. It was a straight line. So we got y equal to mx plus c, which was 1.8, whatever, 1.79809 and 32. Okay, but now we have a more complex model which is not linear. So it has more parameters. Every layer has its own parameters. So you can imagine every layer as a mini model or a mini function. So these values will take, okay, these values will, oh, sorry, what I was saying, okay, my bad, I got some, okay, sorry. So these are the L0 variables. L0 variables as in the function. So for example, to give an intuition or to give an example, this might be something minus 0.077812 into x square plus this into x plus this into x cube plus constant. And when you plug the input values, you get the values for L1. And again, when you get that values for L1, you use these parameters, you get L2. And again, with these, so this is like, do you understand? This is a forward propagation. So you have an input is the L0. So if, for example, if you take input as minus 10. So when I say input as minus 10, and whatever the model is, so I'm just assuming this might be related to x cube, this might be related to x square, this might be related to x, and this might be the constant. So minus 10 cube into this, minus 10 square into this, minus 10 into this, plus this constant will give me some value. Okay, that value you feed it to as an input to the next input layer, which is L1. And similarly, you compute here the final output value and you feed it to the L2 variable, and then finally L2 variable, L2 layer comes, does this processing and multiplies it with the single neuron and gives us this value 211.74742. So I don't know if I made sense. Hello all. Okay, sorry, that's something else. I got the same output on first layer. How? Same output on first layer. So which layer? Did you rerun that? I don't know. I mean, okay. So just rerun it. It would be, yeah. So because it might store the cache. Okay. So does this make sense, guys? I mean, I need some answers now from all of you. So I have another example to code, but based on this, I'll decide if I should continue, because that's a very complex example and it needs a deeper understanding. So so guys, just tell me if it made sense, if all of you could get what I was trying to say, and if you have any queries in this example. So Gokul says go ahead. Okay, anyone else? The answer I can understand, that's great. Vignesh says yes. Okay, so okay, I hope you could all understand this, right? Great explanation. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Gyan. Okay. So, okay, great. Then I think we can continue. And so just I'll be sharing the notebook, this as well as the next one. But what I suggest is all of you, please give it a try on your own at first. And if you don't get it, you can always refer to the notebook which I provide. But I would suggest that you can try implementing a neural network on your own without referring to the notebook, because in that way it will help you understand better. So okay, so I have another example which is the classic neural network example, and it's like the hello world of programming. So anyone and everyone who teaches neural network, yes, I will suggest, yeah, I would do that. Thank you. So what I was saying, yeah, so the example which I will show you now is like the hello world of neural networks. So this, it's known as the fashion MNIST data set. Okay, now let me first explain you what is the problem. So the problem is you have to, okay, now in the previous case, in the Celsius and Fahrenheit case, what did we do? We took a single input value, which was the value in Celsius, and we outputted a single value, which was the output in Fahrenheit. Okay, simple, clear. Now, in this example, what we have is an image as an input, and output is not a single value, it's a single value, but it is among 10. It can be it can take a possibility of 10 values based on the image. So if you can see this present slide, if the output is 0, that means the image was of a t-shirt or a top. If the output was 1, the image was of a trouser. If the output was 2, it was a pullover, and so on. So the aim of the problem is that given an input of an image, your algorithm or your model should predict one of these values based on what the image is. So if the image is of a t-shirt, your model or your algorithm or your neural network which you have implemented should give you a value 0. If it's an image of a trouser, it should give you a value 1. So that is the problem. Is this clear? Is the problem statement clear, that what we need to do? Or what, like, is the problem statement clear to everyone? Yes. Okay, great. So here in this image, in this image you can see so MNIST is a data set, so we have around 60,000 images. Okay, 60,000 or 50,000 images of all of these categories, like t-shirts, trousers, pullovers, dresses. So and our aim is to classification problem. Perfect. Yes, yes, Akila, correct. So our aim is to classify. Okay, so now you will know the difference between when I said earlier in the input parameters. Okay, let me just new notebook. So when I said that, now in this case there are multiple input parameters, so the input won't look like a single value. In our Celsius case, the input was just one value, value of Celsius, 30, 40, 50, whatever. Here the input is an image, but how do you convert that image to code, as in for Python to understand? How will you do that? So I won't be implementing the entire neural network now. I will be just doing a part of it, and I'll leave the rest to you for you guys to implement. Again, I will share the entire code with you, but I would suggest that you please try it on your own before referring the code. The reason being, it's a bit complex. This one, this neural network. So that's the reason. I'll just give you some food for thought. And 1 second. Yes. So let's start. Okay, so now let's proceed in the same way we did earlier. So what was the first step we did here? The first step which we did was to store the input data. Here input data will be our fashion MNIST data set, which is publicly available, open source. Okay, so for that we just need to install this TensorFlow data set so that we can import it. So this is just nothing but pip install TensorFlow datasets. Then after that, the same usual thing. It's running meanwhile, I can do it. Import TensorFlow STF. Then again the same thing. Importing libraries, import TensorFlow dataset. We have imported TensorFlow dataset because here we provided the dataset manually, like we manually wrote this. Now we don't have that. We have to import from somewhere. That's the reason we are importing TensorFlow datasets. Then again, math, NumPy, Matplotlib, these are usual. This logging. Someone had a question regarding logging. So this logging is basically just for like production purposes, as in if your code fails somewhere, you can log the error. And let me just run everything. Otherwise, okay. So now first step is what? First step is to load the training data set. Okay, training data set as in this thing. In our earlier case, this was the training data set. Okay, so here our data set will be fashion MNIST. Okay, another thing. Usually when we do a machine learning problem, we classify the data into two or three categories usually: training data set, test data set, and cross-validation data set. So let's leave aside the cross-validation as of now. Let's consider only two types: training data set and test data set. So when I say training data set, okay, now just to give you a gist, why do we do it? Okay, so here in this, suppose we use all of this data to train. Okay, what we can end up with is, if we use the entire data set just to train our data, so that we say, okay, our model should be very accurate, the loss should be very low, very low. So what can happen is, our model can do something weird like this. Let me show you. So our model can do like this. It will overtraining, or which we call it as overfitting. It will predict a model something like this. Okay, it will have so many model parameters. It will have the values. Sorry, that was okay. Anyway, but okay. And then this will be our model. Okay. Oh. It will overfit the data. Overfit the data as in, it will just whatever your training data is, it will try to be as accurate to the training data as possible. But then, is this a good model? No, it is a very bad model, because how do I enter it? Yes. So so this is the model which our overfitting, which will occur as a result of overfitting. So now what do you think our model will predict when it sees an unknown variable, when it sees an unknown data? Suppose it sees a data here, it will predict some garbage, and that is not correct, and that should not be the case. So in any day, the above model is more accurate. So this curve is more accurate than this. Okay, so that shouldn't happen, and that's the reason we split the training data set, in the entire data set, into two parts: training and testing. So what we do is, we just use only 60% or maybe 70% of the data to train the model, and then check the accuracy of that model on the remaining 30% of the data which the model has never seen. And then we calculate the accuracy, and then we check, okay, so is this good? Then we say, okay, if it's good, we are done. So that's the reason we split the data set into two parts: training and testing. And there is a third part, which is a cross validation. That's something on a deeper level, but if anyone wants, we can discuss it later. So for now, we will just do it into two parts: training and testing. So let me do that. Is this running? Did it run? Okay, run. Yeah. So I'll just paste it, and then I will. Okay. So yes. So now what did I do? I just loaded the dataset. So TFDS is our TensorFlow datasets. I loaded the fashion MNIST. This is again something which is provided by TensorFlow. And supervised, we want a supervised learning, so true. With info, as in with all the information it has, labels and all, true. Train dataset, test dataset. Okay, so this is just, we are splitting it into two arrays, train and test. And we just say dataset of train is the train dataset, dataset of test is the test dataset. So is this clear? I mean, is this much fine? Fine for all of you? How to decide the number of hidden layers and number of neurons in each hidden layer? Okay, so Vignesh, it's up to us. Basically, there are techniques, there are machine learning techniques like false positives, false negatives and all to exactly determine. Like there is no precise algorithm which you can use that will come up, okay, so you should have these many neurons in a layer and these many hidden layers. So there is nothing like that. We just try and implement, we just try different things and we check which one is the best. And to check which one is the best, there are a few techniques like we have a matrix and we calculate that value and we say, okay, if the value is something related to some value, it's good, otherwise it's bad. So it's up to us. There is no such method on which we can say, okay, how many hidden layers are perfect for any problem, or how many neurons are perfect. And okay, so yeah, we can just trial and we can just do a trial and error. We can have one layer, two layers, any neurons. So that's up to us, completely up to us. Okay, please. Okay. Okay. So my question to everyone was: is this clear? Like whatever in this new problem which we have done here, is that fine? Is this good? Can I proceed to the next step? Okay, Akila says yes. Thank you. Anyone else is this dataset used in production app or websites? Not really. So Sahaj, fashion MNIST dataset is basically for us to play with. Play with as in for us to get familiar with neural networks, implement neural networks, have a deeper understanding. We can use it, but there is no, I mean, I am not aware of any such application, but I might be wrong. But it is more for understanding purposes. What are some other methods other than neural networks used in production level? So there are many. Even regression is used on a large scale. Vignesh, regression is on a regression neural networks and KNN. Lot of algorithms. K-means. Lot of algorithms are used, but yeah. So yes, just let me quickly give you some. Sorry. So now we have to define class names because we have to somehow map 0 to t-shirt, 1 to trouser, 2 to pullover. So we just define that, and we now we just see how many examples do we have for training. So I'll just run it and I'll stop here. Okay, so as you can see, there are total 60,000 training examples and 10,000 test examples. So that's how we have made the split between training and testing. So our model will train on 60,000 images and it will test this model, which is now available. It will test on these 10,000 images for the accuracy. So I'll stop here because I can see we are out of time, and I am available for the next 15, 20, 30 minutes if you have any questions, but I'll officially end the session here. And so this is a food for thought to you. I'll definitely give you the completed notebook for this problem which will contain everything with the proper explanations. So both the notebooks, this one as well as this one, with proper explanations and everything. So but what I recommend is please try on your own. So next steps would be to define layers like we did here, and it's pretty similar. Just follow the same steps which are there here and you can complete it. So if not, then you can always refer to the notebook. So yes, I think I think I can end the session now. Uh, okay, so yeah, I'm done. Thank you guys for participating, and this is the feedback link. Please please leave a feedback, so that would be really helpful for us, for me, for Codezilla, for everyone, so that we can plan our future sessions in a better manner. And for me personally, if you think I did something wrong, or if there was some flaw in my presentation, please feel free to point it out so that I can also improve. Yes, that's it. Thank you guys, thank you everyone for having having me here and listening to the session.